Oh my god, I never turned off the camera.
So, as you may have noticed, I am in a new set. That's it. On with the video. Whistleblowers. Oh, you want a definition? Okay, I mean, I guess. There's this quote from the National Whistleblower Center, which I think says it best. On the simplest level, a whistleblower is someone who reports waste, fraud, abuse, corruption, or dangers to public health and safety to someone who is in the position to rectify the wrongdoing. A whistleblower typically works inside of the organization where the wrongdoing is taking place. However, being an agency or company insider is not essential to serving as a whistleblower. What matters is that the individual discloses information about wrongdoing that otherwise would not be known. For example, if your boss is, doing some dodgy accounting work and taking money for himself, right? That's embezzlement. You are blowing the whistle on him if you go to his superior and say, hey, this guy's stealing money. Or if, you go to law enforcement or the government and say, hey, this guy is stealing money. That is whistleblowing. Whistleblowing can, be as small as a student telling their teacher that one of their classmates is vaping, or it could be as big as leaking to the press that a global superpower is committing heinous war crimes in a third world nation. Sorry, I'm really sick right now. A lot of coughing. Whistleblowers are like this really important part of society when you actually take a look at it. Like, without them, so many crimes would just go completely unnoticed. Like, there was this study I found, I think it was 19% of cases of fraud were picked up by professional auditors and like auditing firms and stuff. 43% were picked up by whistleblowers. Like, that's almost half, and it's more than double, professional auditing firms, right? Like, those are the guys who are meant to find this stuff, and whistleblowers find it more than double. That's like 100% more of the time. Like, that's insane, right? That's so helpful to society. Whistleblowers have this really unique position as well. There's this quote from the Chicago Booth School of Business that I think says it best, where it says, "Some are accomplices, but most are not." Whistleblowers force us to focus on our failings. They challenge us, right? They force us to focus on the limits of things like law enforcement and regulation and like corporate compliance programs and corporate structure. Yeah. You want to see issues? Oh, I will give you issues. For one, in the case of whistleblowers reporting on politicians or the elite, it's often the whistleblowers themselves that are prosecuted. Take Clubs New South Wales whistleblower Troy Stoltz. Troy worked in the anti-money laundering part of the gambling lobby for many years. I'm pretty sure he was the head of it, actually, and after leaving the company in 2019, in 2020, he gave a report to journalists stating that 95% of clubs in New South Wales were below the standard for money laundering practices, and counter-terrorism as well. 95%. Clubs New South Wales reacted accordingly and sued him into the ground. The devastating court fees generated by this sue had to be fundraised just to keep Troy in the game. And on top of all that, guess what? He was diagnosed with terminal cancer. The whole situation was just too crippling for him, and Troy ended up settling outside of court. We still don't know if anything was done about the report. Most likely nothing has been done. Throughout his whole ordeal, Troy was under extreme mental duress along with his family, and it's a pattern you really quickly notice when you go looking through these cases. Troy's story is a textbook case of what happens to these whistleblowers. They tell the public of gross wrongdoing, and they're put through miles upon miles of red tape, often for years, right? And once it's all over, nothing really changes. Oh, did I not mention that? Most of the time in this country, Nothing is done. These people will put their livelihoods at risk, their careers, their finances, their relationships, sometimes even their freedom for nothing. It is absolutely sickening. I have not even touched upon the media. Most of the time in Australia, whistleblower cases aren't even reported on, let alone at all. And when they are, oh my god, it is not in a good light. Sure, there are protection laws, but guess what? They don't do anything for people reporting on parliamentarians or anyone in the military. Any soldier you cannot blow the whistle on does not protect you. You do not get protection from that, right? Like, there's the prayer room scandal with, like, in Parliament, right? There were parliamentarians doing sex acts in, like, the Muslim prayer rooms and other places, right? That whistleblower has to stay anonymous. Same with, I believe, Christian Porter's whistleblower, right? They all have to stay anonymous. It's terrible. It really, really is terrible. David McBride's situation is easily the best example of the issues that whistleblowers face in Australia. I'm really passionate about it. I've been following it since early last year, I think. So this is going to be really biased, but I think it's really important to talk about David McBride because he has not been talked about enough. David McBride was a soldier in Afghanistan who realized that our troops had been committing heinous war crimes and that his superiors were covering it up. And so he leaked detailed documents about these war crimes to the ABC in 2017. And he's currently serving 5 years in jail for it. David was a military lawyer for the SAS in Afghanistan, so basically his job was to make sure we were, following the rules. So, following rules of engagement, not killing innocent people, the easy stuff, right? Personally, I don't even know why that job exists, right? It's only a bunch of, young 20-somethings hyped up on George Bush telling them to kill terrorists right after 9/11. I mean, what could go wrong, right? Right? Oh my god, oh wow, yeah, they went too far. There's this one guy, and he's got, like, this Instagram and this podcast, and on the podcast, he's got, like, this tagline where it says, like, ever had a boner while carrying a dead terrorist? I haven't, this is how it unfolded, and it's like, oh my god, what? And, like, in this podcast, he straight up admits to committing war crimes and killing people who are completely innocent, not even Taliban, nothing, like, how is this real? How is this real life? How is this real? So, yeah, David was up to his neck in suspicious reports, obviously. And so, he, being the smart man that he is, takes it to his superiors. And his superiors, they just wave it off. And David's like, hey, what the hell? There are people killing, like, kids here. And so, after lodging complaints for, I believe, 3 or 4 years, David photocopies a bunch of these dodgy reports and sends them to the ABC. And this is, of course, where the stuff I want to focus on truly begins. First off, after the ABC published David's information, the Australian Federal Police raided the ABC offices in Melbourne. Now, as you can see from the footage, everyone in the building was bloody terrified. And, of course, we all know that journalists are all, say it with me, bloody rats. None of them are going to want to work with whistleblowers because they're too scared. I mean, what if the Australian Federal Police raided their offices and then knocked over their precious Julia Gillard Funko Pop with the misogyny speech in hand? Think of the horror. Now, while all of this was going down in Melbourne, David had already fled the country to go to Spain to avoid arrest for the time being, right? Now, it highlights yet another uncomfortable truth here, that most people aren't prepared to uproot their lives to tell the truth. I can tell you right now I wouldn't be. I'm nowhere near as brave as David. The thing that David did next is so insanely breathtaking and beautiful and just heartwarming, and I love it so much. And yeah, I'm just gonna play the clip.
So David came back to Australia.
You never really knew just how terribly he needed you.
What you just saw was David McBride knowing that he will be arrested the minute he returns to Australia, coming home to participate in a father-daughter dance with his daughter. He was arrested within 24 hours. I have no words. And Do you want to know what the media does with that information? Pull up a headline like this. This is why I hate the media. It frames an act that, I would call nothing short of breathtaking as some sort of slip-up on his part, right? It implies that David is some sort of buffoon who didn't know what he was doing, was being brash, right? And none of that is true. And, of course, most Australians who still get a newspaper, a physical newspaper, probably believe what it says every single day. And so for them, David's image was slashed, right? It's terrible. It is vehemently disgusting. Along with that, David's story was just insanely underrepresented in the media. And it meant that I only knew of him because of YouTube. Oh, and on that point, do you remember how much press Ben Roberts-Smith was getting while his defamation case was ongoing? Guess what? He managed to walk free of any war crimes charges. And pictures like this exist. That is Ben with another soldier who was holding a prosthetic leg of an innocent person that they killed. There are other photos on that night in which they are both drinking out of it. This man has a Victoria Cross. An innocent person's prosthetic leg, taken off of their dead body. Guess who's in jail? David McBride. But yeah, McBride did not have a fair trial at all. It's horrendous enough that he was put on trial before any of the soldiers listed in his report, all detailing heinous war crimes. And all of his primary documents were withheld, which were stated by his lawyers to be very important to the case, were barred from being shown in public. And so David was forced to plead guilty, having no evidence to defend himself with. David McBride never faced a jury. He never got to plead his case in front of the people whose taxes paid for the soldiers who committed the war crimes that he so bravely reported on. He did not have any evidence to support himself, and he was instead tried alone by the government that he had blown the whistle on. And so on the 14th of May 2024, David McBride was sentenced to 5 years and 8 months in prison. All for telling the truth. Whistleblowers are in a dire situation. So, is it getting any better? Well, the cases I've used in this video are really quite recent. Troy's case was only resolved last February, and David was only jailed 3 months ago. So, yeah, it's a bit too early to say. Oh, what makes you so high and mighty, huh? So, this is a bit of a different question. It's definitely one of opinion, right? Like, if you're really optimistic, you can say, of course, anything can get better. But for someone like me, who I think is a bit more of a realist, right? Like, you can take a look at the facts that are presented, and you just don't see how it could get any better. Like, I've been looking at this stuff for over 18 months, well over 18 months, right? And yeah, it doesn't look like it's getting any better. Like, how on earth is it that the first person to get charged for the absolute shit show that was Afghanistan is a lawyer? How is it that the pokies can, launder money and ruin someone's life for telling us that they're doing that? How can a man be locked inside an embassy in London for 8 years Not even for whistleblowing, just for facilitating it when the press wouldn't. It's unfair. It's unjust. It's not okay. How can anyone look at this and think this is okay? How can we do anything about it? I'll be honest, I don't know what to do about it. We are just the United States lapdogs at this point. Kevin Rudd was thrown out of office. He had a coup placed on his back just for trying to do things a little bit differently, a little more democratically, not wanting to just kill a bunch of innocent people in a third world country just because, guess what, the terrorists happen to live there. Okay, guys, just kill the terrorists, then leave. No, they didn't do that. They stayed. They had to stay. It's a PR thing. It's always a damn PR thing. Gough Whitlam was thrown out of office for just trying to oppose the United States. We have a spy base that is sitting in the middle of the desert. That is not ours. It is the United States, and we don't get to know what's going on there. We pay for it. We don't know what the hell's going on there. No one does. Not a single Australian works inside. Australians are the guards on that place, and that is it. How is that allowed? How is that okay? How is anything okay? How do we do anything about it? It seems like we're just too far gone. We're just too far separated from what we could do or what we could have done. But no. We can never get back. It seems like it's just... But no, of course, it can get better with time. No, it doesn't seem to want to get better. No one wants to make it better. No one can seem to figure out how. I can't figure out how. I don't know how. I don't know. Australia is this corrupt machine of a country. Everything and anything that is in the press is decided for us. The public debate of the day is picked out, hand-picked for us. We don't have any autonomy. The US hold us on this leash that is so tight to this horrifying degree. And no matter who or what we vote for, who or what we petition for or against, no matter what we protest for, nothing seems to change. Nothing seems to get fixed. Right? It's a story that goes far, far beyond whistleblowing. It's a story that stretches to every corner of this beautiful country that we call home. It's one I couldn't summarize in 2,500 words, and it's one I probably couldn't summarize in 100,000. It is a story that is so large, so massive, so expansive, and the saddest part is that most of us don't even know the half of it. And that brings me to my last point. Now, despite the very much doom and gloom mentality that I've sort of had around this whole thing, there are some things that could help with the whistleblower situation, right? Both on, a smaller personal level and on a much larger, big ideas political level. First off, on the personal level, please, for the love of God, go check out Friendly Geordies. I know I mentioned this before, but I cannot stress this enough. He is fighting the good fight, providing quality, independent journalism for free on YouTube. If you don't find his content working for you, that's okay. You can go to his website, and there is plenty of stuff for finding reliable resources on Australian politics. It is a great place to read up and was an incredibly useful resource in writing up this video. Also, please check out Boy Boy as well. They are sort of a sister channel to Friendly Geordies, providing more longer form video essay type content on not only Australian politics, but also a lot of worldwide stuff as well. Again, really, really useful channel. Full disclosure, I am about 2 steps of separation away from the Boy Boy boys. They used to be Chaser interns. I have a friend of mine who is a Chaser intern at the moment, so that's cool. I'm technically in their very much outer circle. Now, on the larger level, the main thing is for the government to introduce much stronger whistleblower protection legislation than is currently in place. The current legislation, as mentioned earlier, is nowhere near comprehensive and does not cover mainly the military or the government's wrongdoings. This should be immediately changed to make it so that people who are whistleblowing in the most important things most of the time feel a lot safer when telling the truth for our country. It also leaves the definition of public interest completely wide open. It means that prosecutors can essentially just say whatever they want it to mean, and it's fine. They can mold it to whatever they need for their case, right? So, it's painfully obvious that whistleblower protections have failed us in this country, and that refinement needs to be done on those laws. In conclusion, whistleblower protection laws need to be heavily refined to allow for comprehensive protection for all whistleblowers of any kind, and the definition of public interest needs to be correctly defined to make sure that prosecutors and the government cannot mold it to suit their desires and needs. The eternal question. How does one finish a video essay? Most will just present what they've explored, presenting a meaningful collation of all of their ideas. They've come to some sort of conclusion. Now, this isn't really the case for me. I mean, sure, David McBride was jailed 3 months ago, putting an end to his story for now. And Julian Assange's saga was finally concluded last month when he was freed, but it isn't really about the individuals, is it? It's about the stories they paint. In Gosford, there's this old abandoned shopping centre. It's got sheets of steel clad on all the walls to stop homeless people from getting in. And on one of those sheets of steel, there was, for many months, a piece of graffiti reading "Free Assange." I don't know who put it there, or why they did, but I do know what it evokes. It's rebellion. The idea that these people are fighting for what they believe in against the government, against the press, against the mass media, against often their country, against everything. And it often is like that, in a way, rebellion. But maybe it shouldn't be. Thank you.